If you're listening to this in real time, it's October 31st, 2022. We are finishing up this series on 5 principles for redefining hustle. And did you hear the big announcement? Yes, friends. Next week, we are launching the new podcast name, Redefining Hustle, Pursuing Success as a Christian Entrepreneur. And hey, by the way, down in the show notes are the ways that you can get involved in this exciting launch, from leaving a review to sharing this on social media, to sharing this with friends, etc. So I would love if you would go down and do that. And by the way, if this is your first episode you've ever listened to, then you are in for great excitement. So make sure that you go listen to the trailer that is now available. If you're listening to this in your favorite podcast network, you probably see the trailer right there, but there is a link to the trailer in the show notes. And I am just thrilled that God has been working through me for 4 years on this message of how to hustle with heart that has led to the true message, which is how do we redefine hustle? Because we don't have to be swinging our pendulum from the idea of hustle till your haters ask if you're hiring, and then to the other end, which is the latest craze of anti hustle mantra. We can stand steadfast in the center to define hustle the way it actually should be defined, the way the first definition in the dictionary is. Okay. So this week we are finishing up with principle number 5, give God the glory. Now, you may think, well, of course I would do that. But friend, I'm telling you, the enemy is out to seek, kill, and destroy. And he will get under your skin so fast to bring in pride and idolatry. And you will absolutely know, that you're giving the Lord glory. And then in a split second, suddenly your mind has taken you in a different direction and you're, giving the accolades to yourself. So, all of this content I've been sharing with you does come from my book, Pursuing Success God's Way. So if you're watching this on YouTube, by the way, did you know I have a YouTube channel? It's down in the show notes. Go subscribe. And I published this in March of 2020. So you can get it on Amazon. So go do that. The link is down there and the link is on the screen too. The foundational verses of my business ministry are John 15:4 and 5. So we've talked a lot about that. Us walking out this mission in the marketplace starts and ends with abiding, because all of our nourishment, our equipping, our qualifying, all of it comes from the vine, right? And that is why it is the foundation of everything that we do here. And will continue to be the foundation, even with the new podcast name. But when we're abiding in him, that means that we've got to give him the glory. So I'm going to start this week with Matthew 5:14 through 16. And I'm going to read this to you. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. Friends, every activity that we engage in as believers is meant to be done for his glory. He gives you specific spiritual gifts and talents and natural gifts that are all administered through life. And in our case, as entrepreneurs, through our businesses. And we don't do it for self gratification. And we most certainly do not do it for this world's stamp of approval. But we are his representatives, his co laborers, his ambassadors. Frankly, it's not about us. And as we talked about a few weeks ago in Colossians 3:23 and 24, the enemy wants to twist those words, right? So here's Paul's instruction. All of our action and effort, our work, is to be done for him, not for people, not for the world, because our master is Jesus. So all of our work, from the emails that you're sending, to the social media content that you're creating, to the podcast that you're recording, to the client meetings that you're conducting, to the events where you're selling your products, all of it for his glory. And I'll tell you, when I have the hardest time giving him glory is when I'm in the midst of creating the content and doing the writing and the recording, etc. And I'm like, where is this even going to land, Lord? Like, where are the clients coming from this? And he's like, no, no, I made you for this. There is a specific outcome. Keep focus on me. Remember, we talked about that last week. Now, that does not mean that we are to not celebrate. Yes, celebrate. Celebrate progress, celebrate growth, celebrate momentum, celebrate the promotion, celebrate the new client, all of those things. But in that celebration, give him glory. When we're on a stage or being recognized, we can use that moment to share God's influence. You know, I speak in here about a friend of mine in my network marketing business that when she promoted to the third of four levels in our company at our international conference, I was watching at home on TV. It was being live streamed. And when she stepped onto the stage, she pointed her finger up and she looked up to say, Lord, you did this. You get the glory. You may have seen that I have a photograph like that in some of my branding because it's his. It's always his, right? But here's the thing, friends, is that unbelievers in our life will say, well, but you did the work, but you showed the strength. And they kind of look at us a little bit sideways or cross-eyed when we say, "Oh no, it's God's." I had a friend of mine say to me once, if I had to use an adjective to describe you, I would say strong." And I said, "Well, in my weakness, I am strong in the Lord. Like it's his." And she's like, "Oh no, but you're not willing to take credit. Like you need to take the credit. You're the one that's doing it." And I'm like, "No, God made me to do this." Friends, before I accepted Christ in 2014, before I had that fateful conversation with the Velvet Hammer, who I talk about in this book, I didn't think about it that way. I thought, yeah, it's in my strength. Look at my hard work. And that leads us to a place of looking in the mirror and saying, is this it? Like I have success, but I am so empty. I feel like I have to constantly work. I feel like I can't be focused, right? We've got to give glory where glory is due. And it's not just the stage worthy moments, friends. This principle 5 here is about glorifying him in the everyday. Recently, I had people visit my Rooted group coaching, which, by the way, come visit Rooted. Our next group coaching is Friday, November 4th. That's this Friday. Don't miss it. And I had follow up calls with them, and several of them told me no. Several of them were perfect clients for me. I would love to work with them, but they told me no. And in that moment, I could have wallowed. And frankly, for one of them, I did wallow a little bit. But I gave glory to the Lord because, as we know in Romans 8:28, that he works all things together for our good. And by the way, his glory. So that no may be making space for someone else. That no may be they're not going to be a loyal client to you. That no may be redirecting you to something even bigger and better for his glory. So we've got to be glorifying him in the simple everyday moments, the behind the scenes that people don't see. But please, friend, do not think for a second, if you have not had that stage moment, if you have not reached the stage, that you have not succeeded enough to give him the glory, because you can glorify him in every step of your journey. Every single day, asking him, Lord, how are you defining me and success for me? Asking him every single day, Lord, what is your direction for me today? And then making the commitment, Lord, I commit to putting this into discipline. And what is that action that you will take? And then, Lord, I am committed to being focused on you and staying steadfast because you are developing me. By the way, those are the 4 keys, right? Define, direct, discipline, and develop. We can glorify him in every single one of those places. But sometimes we still struggle with wanting the glory. So John Maxwell has the John Maxwell Leadership Bible, and it is the NIV version. And he comments on Paul resisting his tendency to pursue glory in 1 Corinthians 1:18 to at 1:18. This is going to show up the wrong way, but it should be chapter 1, verse 18 to chapter 2, verse 5. And In this section, here's what John Maxwell says: it is natural for leaders to want a bit of glory. Most leaders enjoy the limelight and feel it's only human to want their ego stroked from time to time. Yet Paul resisted his tendency to pursue the glory that only God deserves. He focuses on the superiority of God's wisdom. He teaches leaders valuable truths about his wisdom, which is infinite. Now, remember last 2 episodes ago, we talked about surrender being one of the principles. Well, friends, here's where surrender comes back into play for us, because there's some things that we need to surrender and renounce in order to give God the glory and walk out the mission he's given us. And this relates again to First Corinthians, and this is going to be First Corinthians chapter 2. And this is what Dr. Maxwell says are Paul's conclusions for giving glory where it's due. The first thing we have to do is surrender and renounce human values. We have to think the way that God thinks, not the way that we think, not valuing the achievement and the accomplishment and the accolades, right? Not valuing the next business acquisition, not valuing, hey, look at me, I made the sale, but thinking the way he thinks. How do we know that? Well, while we have the mind of Christ, we have to seek him and ask him, Lord, fill my mind with your thoughts. Secondly, we have to surrender and renounce human strength. And that means that we will be weak and seek his strength, even boasting in our weakness. And unbelievers have a challenge with this, friends, because like it's all about living out who you are and your truth. But we know as followers of Jesus, it's not about us, it's fully about him. And that because we can do all things through him and we can do nothing without him, we've got to abide in him because it is from him that our strength and nourishment comes. And then lastly, we've got to surrender and renounce human wisdom. We've got to ask God for his wisdom and favor. That doesn't mean the wealth and the riches, though he could certainly give that to us. But Lord, what is your wisdom in this place right here? Right? It is one of the reasons that my friend Dr. Sherry and I have been studying the book of Proverbs since November 2020. We read a verse a day, and then we come together on Fridays and we talk about it live on YouTube. So the link, by the way, to that show, which is called The Proverbial Masterminds, is down in the show notes, because we're just two daughters of the king minding the master's wisdom, and we've got to renounce human wisdom to walk out what he's given us to do. What I love most about these opportunities to give him glory is that they come in all shapes and sizes for us. Maybe it's a stage, maybe it's in your car, maybe it's in the drive-through line, like who knows? But to be able to give him the glory even before the stage-worthy opportunities, rejoicing in the small things blesses him and glorifies him. And I believe that he loves to see us do that. And it keeps us moving ahead. It keeps us steadfast. It keeps us focused at being in the center of his will and not like starting to go underwater, like we talked about Peter last week, right? Think of all he's delivered you through, friend. Think of all he's already done through your business, even before you reached whatever level you're at right now. This is not about confidence in the world, but it is about working your business to boast of his work. And as Paul tells us in Galatians 6:14, that we will not boast except in the cross. And we can do this joyfully and with clarity and serenity. And ultimately, that is where our fulfillment comes from. That's a mic drop. I don't know about y'all. Listen, as we close up today's episode, sorry, my book fell. I want to just remind you of a couple of things. If you are in the DMV area, we have our Redefine retreat coming up in Annapolis. Go check it out. Seating is limited and that's filling up. So I don't want you to miss it if you're local. If you're not local, or even if you are, come visit our live group coaching this Friday. This Friday, November 4th, if you're listening to this in real time, is our next Rooted live group coaching. I would love for you to be a visitor and dip your toe into what it's like to experience that community and to work with me. So go grab your free visitor pass down below. And lastly, do not forget to check the show notes for all the ways that you can be part of the celebration of the new podcast name, which launches next Monday, November 7th. Go listen to the trailer. You can leave a review. When you leave a review, make sure that you DM me so I can send you my ebook for free And you're going into a drawing for a $25 Amazon gift card. All kinds of ways you can be part of this celebration. So make sure you go check that out. And until next time, when we launch with our exciting new podcast title, I pray for and encourage you to tune out the world, tune into God's truth, and turn up focus to build your thriving kingdom business. I'll see you next week.